gatherings. The town of Alton is moving from in-person meetings to remote audio participation meetings. To remotely attend the meeting, audio only, visit our website, www.alton.nh.gov. The telephone access and remote access instructions listed under News and Announcements on the home page. You can access an audio, video live stream there as well. Or telephone the Planning Department's office at 603-875-2162 between 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for more information and for the dial-in code and meeting ID for each zoning board meeting. At this point, we'll go around an introduction of the board members. Myself, as I said, Vice Chair Tom Lee, and I'll just go to my left. If everybody could announce themselves.
Tim Morgan, member.
Paul LaRochelle, clerk and selectman liaison.
John Dever, code official.
Okay, we were going to have one member join us by Zoom, but I don't believe he's there. I'll just call out Paul Monzioni has joined us.
No.
Okay. I will make note, we do have an official quorum, but because there are only 3 of us, the people going forward on these cases have an option if they'd rather have their case heard at the next meeting, which we'll get into when we hear each case. There is no appointment of alternates. We have no alternates available. I'll now go into reading the statement of the appeal process. The purpose of this hearing is to allow anyone concerned with an appeal to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to present evidence for or against the appeal. This evidence may be in the form of an opinion rather than an established fact. However, it should support the grounds which the board must consider when making a determination. The purpose of the hearing is not to gauge the sentiment of the public or to hear personal reasons why individuals are for or against an appeal, but all facts and opinions based on reasonable assumptions will be considered. In the case of an appeal for a variance, the board must determine facts bearing upon the 5 criteria as set forth in the state's statutes. For special exception, the board must ascertain whether each of the standards set forth in the zoning ordinance have been or will be met. All right, with that, I'd like to go through and have an approval of the agenda. First, I'll ask John if there any change to the agenda.
One minor change, Mr. Chairman. On KZ 20-27, it says in the header that it's a special exception. That is actually a variance. It does say that in the body, in the body of the description, but I just want to make sure.
Okay, I understand. See it. Yep.
Aside from that, I have nothing else.
With that modification, I would move that we approve the agenda as set forth.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have an approval of the agenda. And we'll get into the first case here.
You need to vote. You made the motion, but we have to.
Made the motion, I'm sorry. So
okay.
I approve the amended agenda. Tom Lee, aye.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, and then we'll get into our new applications. First one is KZ 20-25, David and Karen Perella, 173 Mitchell Ave, Alton Bay Camp Meeting Association, map 34, lot 3350, special exception, residential zone. This special exception is requested from Article 300, Section 320G of the zoning ordinance to permit the expansion of a structure for non-conforming uses beyond existing elevations. So let me first ask, David and Karen, are you on the call or are you available?
There we go.
Yes,
Okay.
and sorry for the backgrounds. My daughter was on there. If you're seeing a weird background, I didn't.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. I'm just going to leave this alone because I've never used Zoom, and I'm not going to mess it up further unless you need me to try and fix something.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I assume you're David. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, sir.
I don't know if you heard this portion, but I'll repeat it for each case. We do have a quorum of 3 members here. That's the minimum. You can push forward to have this case heard next month if you would rather, with a full contingent of members, or you can have the case heard tonight with the 3 of us. It's your decision.
No, sir, it should be totally fine. It's pretty straightforward anyway, so I'm thinking that you're going to be fine too. So, yeah, let's just move forward.
Okay. All right. With that, I'd like to ask the members here if we could look at the application and accept the application as complete on case Z20-25.
I would move that we accept application Z2025 as complete.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Tom Lee, aye.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Okay. It's unanimous that the application has been accepted as complete. All right, David, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you would give us an overview of, I see you got a number of drawings here and a write-up on your, what you're planning to do as far as the special exception, if you could review for the board.
Sure thing. So basically what I'm looking to do is redo the foundation so that it's on a solid foundation and to redo the stairs. It's kind of one of those projects that, you know, when you start off with one thing, it just kind of fills into extra. The start off was the stairs. The stairs are filled. They've been heaving for a long time. And the cottage being adjacent to the stairs, when those stairs get excavated, it's going to upset the foundation even more right against the stairs anyways. And so the thought process was like, you know what, why am I dealing with this every several years? And so the intent would be to put a foundation in so that I have storage place for kayaks and summer stuff that goes into there, and to redo the stairs. The cottage, when originally built, it's on that, it's kind of like a 2.5-foot wall for where it goes up. And so what we want to do is just make everything level. And so that's ease of access and ease of use for the cottage. And then also what it does is basically it pushes the setback further back from the street, because that's a narrow area anyways, and which will then create it'll create a little parking spot, but it'll still add more room to the street for the turnaround, which is adjacent to the cottage. So the project will be completed by a contractor. Roger Sample's going to do the work. He'll be doing the excavation and the foundation work, to which basically it'll just be ripping out everything and doing a lot of the excavation, and then putting steel beams in to support the foundation and to support the cottage on the new foundation. Utility bathroom, that's really just very much a convenience thing, because I am up there working all the time at the conference center, and my family gets tired of me messing up the bathroom with walking in there with dirt and everything else. So anyways, I just like one of those convenience things. That's pretty much the extent of it. It doesn't impact anybody adversely next to it. You know, the cottage, and they're looking forward to seeing renewal. And to me, truthfully, it's one of those things. And I've talked to John Deaver on multiple occasions, and to me, it's more of just bringing, you know, if I can do something that's going to be to code and to be able to make it better for the conference center, then that's really a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Any questions from any of the board members?
Chairman, I had 2 questions. First of all, Mr. Perrella, I'd like to compliment you on what I think is a well-prepared packet here, but I had 2 questions. Quite often when we get an application that involves a residence on the Christian Conference Center, we get a letter from the conference center saying that they either A, have no objections or are in support. I didn't see one of those in the packet. You have addressed it with them, I presume.
Yes, sir. So actually, I didn't know that I would need a letter, and so that's why I didn't put one. Basically, what you'll see as part of the packet is the conference center's building development permit, and that's signed off by Brad Smith, the director for that. In fact, they actually, yeah. So there you go. So it's signed off by him for the building development permit from the conference center, because we look at it as giving them that, getting that document signed goes along with the packet that I turn into the town.
Thank you. The second question is, what change will this make to the height of the roof line?
No change, actually. It's basically, all it is just going to be, the cottage is going to be the same level, the roof line is going to be the same. All that's going to happen is they're going to jack the cottage up, excavate underneath, and put the foundation in at the same level, and then basically just lower it right back onto it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
David, this is Tom. Just looking at section 320, paragraph G, the zoning board shall not grant a special exception unless it finds the proposed expansion will not have an adverse impact on abutters or other property owners, and that any expansion of the structure for the non-conforming use, such as an increase in number of bed, will be accommodated by water supply sewage disposal system approved by NHDES. So I see you have a list of abutters here. It looks fairly extensive. And all these people are noted as being mailed, have been notified?
Yes.
Already. It's quite extensive.
It is extensive, and it's because the way the conference center is, it's all the abutters that are around the whole conference center.
Mm-hmm. And then my last question is to John. Under the zoning officer, it says a shoreline permit will be required because the cottage is located approximately 198 feet from Back Bay, which puts it within the 250-foot shoreline protection zone. So, can you explain that to me?
Well, any development within the shoreline buffer, which is 250 feet from the edge of Back Bay, is considered part of the lake.
Okay.
So that's just an extension of the lake there. So that has to be addressed if they're going to be, if they were just shoveling by hand, that's one thing, but where they're getting in mechanically excavating, they have to do it. What's, definitely in his favor is he's in the least restrictive section of the shoreline zone as it is, and his anticipated disturbance will be minimal when all is said and done. The permanent impact is going to be virtual, no more than what is there, presently. So that puts him in. There's two levels of permits. One's fairly extensive, one's fairly simple. This should put him in the level of the permit that's fairly simple.
Because he is of the furthest back, by the way the drawings look.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for David?
David, this is Paul LaRochelle. I just want to clarify a couple of things if I can.
Sure, absolutely.
The stairway being rebuilt, will that be concrete again?
No, that's the whole issue, is that the concrete just, it's destined for failure. It'll be built to code using pressure treated lumber and AZEK Trex decking.
I see. And you're removing the tree in the front, excavating the front for
Yes.
parking,
Yes, correct.
off-street parking.
Correct.
Now, that basement also in the front, where I'm looking at the photo now, with the, looks like 8x8 or 6x6 posts.
Yeah.
That new foundation that's going there, that's going to be also looks like a walkout or
Correct.
a door on one side, walkout?
That's correct. Basically, I'm figuring it's going to be a aesthetically pleasing garage door and a couple windows for the front facade, so that it'll match in with the conference center area. And it'll be easy to store kayaks and all that other fun stuff that's all over the place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, no other questions from the board. I will now open the hearing for public.
He said he now has Paul.
Oh, he does, okay. I understand Paul Manzioni has joined us. Paul, you there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay, because I can see you, but when I was talking, you guys couldn't hear me, so I guess I'm all
Yeah,
right now.
We can hear you now, Paul. I don't know how much of the case you have heard. Have you been on since the start?
Yeah, just about since the start, yes. But I
Okay.
didn't understand, and I lost it when for me to call Josh just now in order to get this connected so that I could be heard. I missed what was being said about the new basement. So I just wanted to ask if it's living space, if the old one was also a walkout. He said that it's not raising the roof line height at all. So obviously the new basement foundation isn't making the building any taller. I didn't know whether the old one was the same where they could go in there. Could it be living space? They can walk out of it. And then I also thought I heard him say something about a new bathroom so he wouldn't dirty up the bathroom. Is the applicant going to add a bathroom to the structure as part of the project? Those are my questions.
So yes, basically, to answer your questions, yes, there will be a bathroom in there. It'll be more like a utility type bathroom. We don't have a plan to make that a living space. The intent is we have a family of kayaks and watercrafts or whatever the case may be on there that want to be able to store, whether it's a canoes or whatever, and just to be able to have storage space underneath the cottage where we can put that stuff away.
Okay, and with regard to adding a bathroom, the septic system is designed to accommodate that additional bathroom. Do you know? I know it goes by bedrooms, but we have one of the, some of the criteria we have to look at in order to grant or deny this is that it will be accommodated by appropriate water supply and sewage disposal approved by the New Hampshire DES. What about those issues?
So yes, with the conference center, I've already talked to Brad Smith because there's no change in the usage of the cottage. There's no change in the amount of people that are going to be using it. There's no change in how the cottage is being used. So there's not going to be any additional increase to bathroom issues. So basically, yeah, there's not a concern at all with talking with Brad Smith at the conference center with the septic system for that. And as far as, what was your other question, sir? I think that was.
No, well, the two things are sewage disposal and water supply. So
Okay.
if the septic load isn't changing and you're representing that by putting this foundation and making it a place where there'll now be a second bathroom located in the basement, one that hasn't been there until now, until the new project, there'll be adequate, it'll be accommodated by appropriate water supply and sewage disposal. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is correct. It's 100%. It'll be, yes, the water supply that's there is totally accommodating for it. It doesn't change anything as far as the increasing a demand on the system for water supply or septic.
And it doesn't in any way affect the approval of the system by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services? Do you know?
It shouldn't affect anything as far as I know. I mean, I didn't know, you're basically asking me about an entity that I didn't know that I had to contact. I went by the building permit documentation to submit that, but there is no additional load on water nor septic for this project.
Got it. And the only reason I brought that up is because when you filed the application and you looked at the zoning regulation, you would have seen that it can't be granted unless it can be shown that it will be accommodated by water supply sewage disposal system approved by the NHDES Subsurface Systems Bureau. So if you're representing that the addition of this bathroom is not going to in any way affect the approval that currently exists for that septic system, then I think you would satisfy the requirement there.
Okay, correct. Yeah, it sounds, yes. Changes into anything as far as loads or demands on the system.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board before we open the public hearing? Okay, thank you, Paul. We'll then open the hearing to public input for anybody who is on the call or Zoom, otherwise, who is in favor of this special exception. And Josh is telling me no. And I'll ask, is there anybody public input who is against this special exception? Please raise your hand or let us know that you are against the special exception. And no response there either. So at that point, I'll close the hearing to public input. We'll now, as a board, move to the worksheet and go through the special exception criteria. Tim, if you could start us off.
Sure. A plat has been submitted in accord with the appropriate criteria of Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
I agree. Paul LaRochelle?
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Lee, I agree.
The specific site is an appropriate location for the use. This is a restoration of a project of homes that are in this area that's only upgrading and making this a better property for its use.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. The use isn't being changed at all from what it is. The applicant has represented there'll be no change of use, even with the new basement and the addition of a extra or an additional bathroom.
This is Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
I do not have a worksheet. So the next one would read what, Paul LaRochelle?
Factual evidence.
Property
Value.
Would you mind reading that?
Would you like me to read it?
Please.
Yes. Factual evidence is or is not
I'd say is
found,
not.
found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land use.
Right, I would say it is not found because this is an improvement to an existing structure. It's going to probably enhance the area and location where the structure is, and if anything, would likely have a good effect on property values.
This is Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Okay, in regards to abutters, there are no valid objections from abutters based on demonstrable fact. We've got an extensive list of abutters that have all been notified. We also got a permit from the director of the Christian Center that's approving this as well. So I feel there is no valid objection.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree as well.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. The applicant intends to create a parking space dedicated to this cottage, so if anything, it will relieve pedestrian and vehicular traffic.
I agree. Paul LaRochelle.
Paul Manzioni, I agree. I don't think that vehicular traffic or pedestrian traffic is in any way going to be affected by putting a new foundation and basement for this building.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities and utilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. There is no increase in the water usage or septic system itself. This is maintaining the same amount of usage as it previously had, with the exception of an added utility bathroom.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree. Paul, you want to read Paul's line?
Yep, this one's for Mr. Manzioni. There is or is not adequate area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply.
I would say there is adequate area for sanitary sewage and water supply based on the information from the applicant that this project will in no way increase load on sewerage or water demand.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
And lastly, on the criteria of intent, the proposed use of structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance and the intent of the master plan. It's an upgrade, it's meeting all the zoning ordinances, and it will certainly benefit the community and the town under the master plan.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree, same reasons.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Okay, with that being said, it is unanimous here, David, that we have approved a special exception for KZ 20-25.
You're
We
gonna,
need a motion.
We're gonna vote on it.
I'd like to interject one thing.
Yes.
As perhaps a condition. The water department did say that they wanted to have contact with Mr. Perella to coordinate the water connections and probably installation of new equipment or whatever, so that once prior to his starting, he would make those arrangements with the water department.
Sure. I actually, I tried to call Courtney yesterday, and I left a message for her, and truthfully, I just got sidetracked. I didn't try calling her back again, and she didn't call me back. I think there, Amelia, I think, was talking to me about that, and she said she wasn't sure if something just kind of clicked and said, oh, wait a minute, this is at the conference center where we already have our pipes. But I will tell you that I absolutely want to improve that while the excavator is there, because right now the shutoff for my cottage is over at 179 Mitchell, which is another cottage. So I am definitely going to be contacting Courtney to make sure that she is okay with putting a shutoff in front of my cottage and getting that taken care of too, so that it's done more appropriately.
Okay. Thank you, David. So could we get a motion for KC 20-25?
I'll move that we approve KC 20-25 with the requirement that the applicant satisfy the needs of the water company.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tom Lee, aye.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Okay, David, you are officially approved here through the zoning board for your special exception. Good luck on the project.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Could you just say what you just said? I just got someone dialing in on me.
That's fine. That was like some celebratory music, because you're officially approved, and good luck on your KC 2025 special exception.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, moving forward, and I'll ask the board now before we get rolling here, but assuming we'll combine Z 2026 with Z 2027 in regards to application.
Yes, the exhibits will be common to both, just their separate action when it comes to.
Okay. So I'll introduce KC 20-26 first, Dean and Lorraine Boucher, 30 Bonnie Road, map 22, lot 18, special exception in the rural zone. Special exception is requested from Article 300, Section 320J of the zoning ordinance to permit the replacement of a non-conforming structure that is voluntarily removed. So, Dean or Lorraine, are you with us tonight?
He's on mute.
Okay,
Can you hear us?
Yes,
Can
yes,
now.
we can hear you.
can you see us?
We can hear you. So that's Dean and Lorraine, welcome.
Yes.
Okay.
How
For the board here, I'd like to take a look at the application and we can get and accept the application as complete with a motion once we go through it.
Yes, I would ask other members of the board if they thought the plat that was submitted was sufficient for them to be able to make a decision on these two applications. Did you have something else submitted to you, John, that was,
That we don't have?
Is there's no,
this is,
yeah, that's, I have that. and I have
Just this?
I do have color ones, they're essentially the same as that. This one, apologize, thought I had this included. This one has a better depiction of the, let me make a copy, better depiction of this 30-foot setback.
okay.
So it looks like there's some architectural elevations, right? Exterior renderings of some kind. And then I guess there was an abutter list on the other one. And then this Varney Road plat or plan is just depicting where the structures are currently located and where the new structures would be located on the lot.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Wait for John, but I think everything else is there. Just wait for him for a second, I guess.
Dean and Lorraine, just bear with us. We're having some copies made of one of
Okay.
the plans we don't have as all the members.
Thanks, John.
I make a motion that we accept case number Z 20-26 as complete.
Do I have a second to accept application Z 20-26 and Z 20-27?
So, just so I understand the motion, it's being made with regard to both cases?
Yes, I'm sorry. I neglected to say also case Z 20-27 as well.
Okay. And I guess, I mean, the narrative, I guess, is the brief statement. So I guess it technically satisfies the requirements of the narrative. There's a plat, there's the deed, there's a butter list. So I guess I'll second the motion to accept it as complete.
Okay, all in favor? Tom Lee, aye.
Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Okay, with the acceptance of the application as complete, we'll then move forward to Dean and Lorraine. If you can give us an overview for the special exception, and this will also entail, later we'll get into the variance part of it. Dean or Lorraine, are you still with us?
You're on mute, Dean. You are on mute.
Mute.
There you
How's
go.
that? Okay,
We see you and we hear you now.
okay. I can't see you, but I can see half of you. The reason that this has taken place, we've owned it for 13 years, and prior to that, we've been there for 50 years. And we're just thinking it's getting run down. We just feel as though if we could update it, that's the key is just to get it a little more up to date. It's really starting to fade right now. We've spent so much time there, and it's just right at this point. It's the ugly one in a mist of beautiful houses. So we're just trying to keep up a little bit, and hopefully you can see that we're trying our best to make it comfortable and worthy of your vote. So what we're doing is we're just taking the red is what's there, and we're just extending it to the left another 10 feet, say, and we add a garage to the front of it. But keeping basically the same footprint, just adding another 10 feet on the left and the garage in the front. And we do have a plan for the septic to make it up to date. Am I doing all right here?
Yes. Yes. We'll be going through a series of questions just to see how this lines up with the special exception criteria. But, so if I'm reading the plan correctly, existing, it's a 26-foot wide house by 31.8 feet, two-story wood structure, and you want to then turn it into a 36 feet by 27 two-story structure with a 16 by 20 foot one-car garage.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Paul Monzioni. I understand we also have another member who joined us, Mike Hepworth. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I don't know how much of this case you've heard at this point, if any.
I've heard about the last 10 minutes.
Okay, so, for the sake of the continuity of this case, we'll keep it with the members we currently have, and then we'll get Mike into the meeting after this case. Or
Very
at
good.
least get him he can get into the variance aspect of it. Okay, as far as the presenters are concerned, anything else you wanted to add? You detailed as far as the footprint, you're adding the 10 feet off to the side, and also the garage piece. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we get into some questions from the board?
I don't, I'm willing for questions. I'm trying to think of, it'll come out beautiful. I guarantee that. And, it'll
That's fine.
enhance,
Yep.
it'll enhance the area. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. And you did mention the septic system will be upgraded.
Yes.
Okay. So at this point, I will just go to the board members. If we have any questions, we can certainly look at Section J of Section 320. Are there any questions from the board members?
Yes, sir. Dean, this is Paul LaRochelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Is there going to be any additional bedrooms?
No. No.
And you said you are working on getting an approved septic design?
We have one from, Tom Barney. I don't know if I had submitted it, but we're gonna, what is existing, we're gonna fix up so it's up to code. And Tom Barney has a septic design for us already complete.
An existing well is from the existing septic tank is only 50 feet?
Yes, yes. And that well is gonna be, abandoned.
I'm sorry?
That well is gonna be abandoned.
It is going to be abandoned.
Well,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I? There's a hand dug well, on the street side of the lot. That will be abandoned. The proposed well is allowed to be 50 feet from the septic tank at its closest point. Generally, they want 75, but they will allow 50 feet as long as the tank is sealed.
Sealed.
Correct.
Right. That's why I was asking. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Certainly, Paul.
So what's the nonconformity? The current structure sits in the lakeshore setback. Is that why this is a nonconforming structure?
Yes.
All right, John says yes. So the increase of nonconformity is going to take place behind and away from the lake. All other setbacks will stay in compliance. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And both the new structure itself will become, why is any of this becoming more non-conforming? I'm not sure that it is. Just because it's getting bigger, John?
No, they're off, as you look at the plan, to the left side of the house is an existing deck. You just barely make the outline of it there.
I see
But
it.
and that is going to be converted to living, they want to convert that section also to living space. So it would be that small portion of the deck will become living space, hence the variance request. If it was just going back as a deck, then it would not be, there'd be no need for a variance request because it's existing. So that's what the variance is for that small section there.
I was having
Okay.
trouble tying the.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, me too.
So, but that's what the variance request will be. The deck in the front of the house, the remainder of the house will be conforming to all setbacks, except for what's shown on this plan here.
Okay, so, and just so I understand procedurally where we're at, it's not permitted to convert a deck into a living space. And that's why the applicant requires a variance in order to convert on a non-conforming structure. You can't convert decks into living space. So the applicant has an application for variance that we're going to deal with next.
Correct.
On being able to do that, okay? And if
Correct.
that's done, that creates, one would say, a non-conforming or additional non-conforming aspect of the structure. But if it's permitted by variance, then I wonder if we view it as a non-conforming or an increase in non-conforming. But setting that aside, nothing else about the addition of this structure into the building envelope is really going to make it more non-conforming. Am I right about that? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
because the only non-conformance is the setback into the lake, the shoreline setback. The structure's in there, that's not changing. The only thing is when you try to, this building's gonna be raised, right? You're gonna tear it down?
Correct.
Correct.
Right, so, you know, to the extent possible, if there's a voluntary removal of a non-conforming building and a request to replace it, to the extent possible, the applicant should try to eliminate the non-conforming aspect in the first place. So my question to you is, in redoing this building, tearing it down and building a new one, is there any way you can move that building back farther out of the encroachment of the lake, lake shoreline setback?
Well, what we would like to keep with the same footprint as it stands, because it's like a perfect scenario for us. It's always been right there, and we would like it on the same footprint, if that's, you know.
Right, no, I get that, believe me, and I think that, and I'm not sure we're looking at the appropriate section here that's in front of me, and we're attending this by Zoom under difficult circumstances, and so I don't have the rest of the zoning regs readily available, but I do have a specific recollection that the town zoning regs permit an owner of a building to voluntarily remove it, tear it down, or raise it. You know, in the old days, if somebody took a non-conforming cottage like this that was, you know, on the lake and tried to rebuild it or something, they would lose their grandfathering, and so they wouldn't do it, and the buildings would get dilapidated and be awful. They'd leave up one wall to try to make it seem like they weren't taking it all down. So we changed the zoning law to allow somebody to voluntarily take down one of these old structures, and so that we could encourage that kind of thing. We permit it now, even though it's non-conforming. But the zoning reg says that if you take it down and it's a non-conforming building, like it's too close to the lake, then to the extent possible, if the lot will accommodate it, the applicant is required to eliminate the non-conforming aspect of the structure if that can be done. And so in what I'm asking you is, first of all, how far into the lakeshore setback is the structure currently? Do you know?
it's 24 feet away from the lake.
Okay, it's 24 feet away from the lake, and it should be 50 or 30?
30.
30, it should be 30. So you're only 6 feet into the setback. It's not like it's horribly encroaching. You're 6 feet encroaching into the lake shore setback. So my question to you is, when you build this new building, is there any way that would the lot enable you, accommodate you're moving that new building back 6 feet so that the building would not be in the setback anymore, and you will have eliminated the non-conforming aspect of it?
Mr. Chairman.
But that's too easy. I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, if we can move it back 6 feet,
Yeah.
then we're not asking for any variance. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
No, you are
you're
still.
asking for the variance because you want to convert a deck into, but actually,
Right.
no, I think you're right, because, and John's going to help us out here a second, but just to finish my thought, if that building got moved back 6 feet and it's no longer a non-conforming building, I think the restriction on converting a deck into a living space only applies to a building that's non-conforming. So once that building was moved 6 feet back out of the lake setback, it's no longer a non-conforming building. He can put whatever he wants there for a deck. He can turn it into living space, because once it's a non-conforming building, the restriction of converting a deck into a living space, I don't think applies. Now, I have to caution what I'm saying because I don't have all the regs in front of me, but I'm doing that from memory. Am I right, John?
One of the things is there's a deck on the front of the house also, on the
Okay.
lake side of the house that you can see there. It says existing deck to remain.
It's
Okay.
an 8-foot,
And it's presently approximately 13 feet from the shore by the measurements that I had.
Oh,
That deck itself, on the lake side of the house. There was a deck to the side of the house and then one on the front of the house facing the lake.
yeah, I wish we had some photographs with this application of the current condition. That would have been very helpful. Um,
Okay. You gotta-
So John, would a pushback of 13 feet solve it?
Can you just sit down?
The lot is very small.
Oh,
You're looking at a quarter acre of a lot.
I see. Yeah,
I don't think, and I don't.
Yeah, it's 50 by 100.
Yeah, it's a very small lot, so there's, pushing it back just would push into their parking area for other vehicles besides what they got in the garage.
Pushing it back 6 feet would get the structure itself,
Would get the
But not the
structure
deck.
itself,
and so
the
wouldn't,
deck could remain, the existing deck would remain in the setback if it could push it back 6 feet.
and the variance for the deck on the side wouldn't be required.
that would
Go
go away.
So a special exception with requirement that it be moved back 6 feet would solve most of the issues.
That's correct.
I agree with moving back 6 feet. That'll be fine.
and that gets you out of the lake
all.
shore setback, which is a good thing for everybody.
Right.
And it doesn't
Right.
make a big difference to the aesthetic and use of the house. You're still very close to the lake.
Okay?
I was gonna ask.
But the only thing, Tim, is would the deck, the existing deck, still cause the rest of the structure to be non-conforming, such that we then go to the variance part of this application tonight and see if he gets that granted? I don't know, John, you don't think so?
No, because the only deck that was in question as far as becoming living space was the side deck and not the lake, not the front deck.
I gotcha.
So with pulling the whole thing back 6 feet, that takes all of that area out of the setback.
Oh, good.
Your front, the lakeside deck remains in the setback, but that's all that will be there.
And so he may not need the special exception or the variance because he's coming to you to get a permit to build a fully conforming structure. He's gonna
We
tear
still-
down huh?
The lakeside deck is still going to be non-conforming.
Oh,
So he needs a special exception to raise it and rebuild it.
Correct.
That front deck.
I gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. Thanks, you guys. I just wanted to explore that. So, but that 6 feet helps you on the variance issue.
Get rid of that.
And probably helps you on the special exception issue as well, because you're doing something that is encouraged, and that is you're making a structure less non-conforming. So that's good. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
in
Mr.
favor.
Montague, we have the advantage of a plat you didn't see, which has the 30-foot setback marked in color. That was something that Mr. Dever just passed out now.
I
So
gotcha.
you wouldn't have had advantage of seeing that.
Thank you.
So just for my clarity, this is Tom. We're saying the house, this house is being raised, the new home is gonna be within the setback,
Only the,
but it will have a deck attached that goes into the setback.
By moving the house itself 6 feet back,
Yeah.
the house structure is out of the setback.
Yep.
Correct.
It's in the building envelope. All that remains in the setback will be the lakeside deck, the front deck.
Which will also be, if he just chose to, if he's moving the house back 6 feet, he
That
can
will,
move the deck back 6 feet.
that will come back 6 feet.
That also makes it less non-conforming.
Correct,
In the aspect of the deck.
Yep.
correct.
Okay.
So the variance goes away.
That the applicant's in agreement with it? Yes.
Yes,
And Dean, just to clarify for the record, you're stating that you will in fact now build the new structure within the 30-foot setback, beyond the 30-foot setback, within the building envelope. That's correct?
correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board?
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Nope. Okay.
I
That's it.
just have one additional
Go ahead,
question,
Paul.
if I may. In looking at the elevations, it's going to be a beautiful building, as you've said, but is the overall height of the structure changing from what it is presently?
It might be like a couple feet higher because they built them smaller back then, but it's still 2 floors above grade. And it's going to be 2 floors above grade, but I'm thinking maybe a couple feet higher, but not above the code.
Okay, it'll still be obviously within the 35-foot or whatever it is
Oh,
height
yes.
restriction
Yeah.
from finished grade average. Okay, thank you.
And it
Mr.
also-
Monzioni, the front elevation sketch shows a height, a ridgeline height of 29 feet.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And the additional 2 feet or so, height of the building won't be obstructing anyone's view?
No, it's behind us is empty lots, empty lot.
Woods.
Any other questions? Okay. At this point, I'll open the hearing to any public input in favor of this special exception. And that's a no. And public input against this special exception. Is there anybody online or on Zoom that is against this special exception? And that's a no as well.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. I can say that I spoke with one of the abutters this morning, and he said that Mr. Boucher has been threatening for years to do something to improve the place, and Now he's finally gonna get to it, so.
I take that as an approval. A
I was-
long-awaited approval, okay.
Dean, I
Who
was
said that?
talking to Jim.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Jim?
Yeah, I talked to Jim this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, we'll then move forward into the special exception worksheet. And Paul, if you could start us off, Paul LaRochelle.
Yes. A plat has been submitted in accordance with the appropriate criteria in Article 500, Section 520B. Yes.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Hold on one second, guys, because I think in the application itself, the special exception worksheet is here. I got it. The specific site, am I next, by the way, now that I've been shooting my mouth?
Yes, you are.
I'm next, okay.
For now.
The specific site is an appropriate location for the use. The use isn't changing. It's the same residential use as currently exists.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Okay, in regards to, that's fine. In regards to the criteria for value, factual evidence is not found that the property value in the district will be reduced due to incompatible land uses. Certainly, it will enhance the area, and it's been long awaited, at least based upon one abutter's comment. So I feel this will be value added.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
There's no valid objection from abutters based on demonstrable fact. There was no input from abutters at all, with the exception of the anecdote given to us by Mr. Dever. So I think there's no valid objection.
I agree, Paul LaRochelle.
I agree, Paul Manzioni.
I agree, Tom Lee.
There is no undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, including the location and design of access ways and off-street parking. And none of this will be changing.
Paul Manzioni, I agree.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Adequate and appropriate facilities will be provided to ensure the proper operation of the proposed use or structure. I'm going to say that I find that's the case, but I condition my finding on the condition that the applicant fulfills the requirement to have a appropriately designed and approved septic system as required by the DES.
Tom Lee, I agree.
Tim Morgan, I agree.
Paul LaRochelle, I agree.
In regards to sewage, just more specifically, there is area for safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply. The applicant has stated that he has a plan, and certainly if it meets code, there should be no issues at all with safe and sanitary sewage disposal and water supply.
I agree that, Tim Morgan, I agree, and there's a plan for a new well to replace a dug well.
I agree as well. Paul LaRochelle.
I agree for those reasons. Paul Manzioni.
The proposed use or structure is consistent with the spirit of this ordinance, the intent of the master plan, as Mr. Manzioni said during discussion, that the plan and ordinance were changed a few years ago to allow precisely this sort of thing.
I agree, Paul LaRochelle.
I agree, Paul Manzioni.
I agree, Tom Lee.
In that case, I move that we approve case Z20-26 with the requirement that the structure be moved 6 feet back from the lake and out of the 30-foot setback, so 6 feet from the plat that was presented this evening.
I second.
All in favor? Aye, Tom?
In discussion, I wonder if I would request if, Mr. Morgan, you would be willing to amend your motion to include an additional condition that the new structure meet any DES requirements for septic.
Certainly, I'll add that as a condition.
I second.
All in favor? Aye, Tom Lee?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Very well. So that's that.
I guess procedurally, at the next one, do we have to ask the applicant to withdraw the variance?
Yeah, it's probably best to ask to formally withdraw the variance request, being as it's no longer needed.
Okay. So Dean and Lorraine, as far as the special exception has been granted for case Z20-26. And now we just formally, for the record, need you to state, I'll introduce case Z20-27, Dean and Lorraine Boucher at 30 Bonnie Road, map 22, lot 18. It's a variance in the rural zone. As far as that case is concerned, are you withdrawing that case from going forward with a variance on Z20-27?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We can just second that, or we're good?
I think we're good.
No, I would just request that I could state for the record that the applicant has agreed to withdraw that application for Z20-27 for the variance based on the board's finding that in light of the granting of the special exception and the building being moved back 6 feet, the board has agreed that the variance application was not necessary for the applicant. I just want that on the record for the benefit of the applicant so that he'll have the minutes and the record of that showing why he didn't go forward with the variance, because the board determined it wasn't needed given that the building was being pushed back.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that will, yep, you're all set. That concludes it. Good luck on your special exception, and I think we worked through the process very well as far as a group here with the applicant and the board. And Dean and Lorraine, have a good night.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank you very much. You did a great job.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Good
You
night.
too. Good night.
Okay, and at this point, before we go any further, I just want to introduce Mike Hepworth. He's still with us. Mike, you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, I didn't want to move you into that case in the middle of it, and so we just moved along as a board. We
No
got through
problem.
that case, and just to put it on the record that Mike is now joining us. Our continued applications are next, and we have case 20-09, Justin Passay, for Donahue, Tucker, and Ciandella, and Brad Jones for Jones and Beach Engineers, agent for Rand Hill Realty LLC, Mount Major Highway, New Hampshire Route 11 North, map 49, lots 4, 5, and 5-1. They were proposing a special exception in the rural zone, but that case has formally been withdrawn. We have a letter from the attorney stating such, and I will just briefly go through this letter. Dear Chairman and board members, the above matter is currently scheduled to be heard at its 3rd of December 2020 meeting. While the Conleys continue to believe that their project would be great for the town and the community, given the current uncertainty caused by COVID-19 and the challenges of presenting a comprehensive plan for the site virtually, they have decided to withdraw their application at this time and without prejudice, in the hopes that they can return to the ZBA in the near future, and they look forward to that process. Sincerely, Donahue, Tucker, and Ciandella, courtesy of Justin Passay. So case 20-09 has been officially withdrawn. Any questions from the board on that matter? Okay, we'll move forward as far as other business, previous business.
May I interrupt for just 1 second? To the extent that Mike is going to participate on approval votes or anything else, I would at this time like to make a motion that we appoint Mike as a board member. And before I do that, let me ask you guys, because I forget. The alternate, before the alternate can sit, don't we usually have to make a motion to appoint the alternate as a board member? It's on the agenda too, usually, right?
Yes.
Appointment of alternate, yeah. So, and that has to be done by motion. So I would just so move.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Tom Lee, aye.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you. So no previous business to discuss. We do have new business. Approval of the 2021 meeting schedule for the town of the Alton Zoning Board. I think everybody received a copy of that. The details up top, the planning board meeting schedule, and then more specifically, the Alton Zoning Board Adjustment 2020 meeting schedule. So we just need to get an approval of that meeting schedule. There's necessarily a motion for that, or?
I make a motion to approve the Town of Alton Zoning Board of Adjustment 2021 meeting schedule.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Tom Lee, aye.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Manzioni, aye.
Mike Hepworth, aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. And so paragraph 2, subsection B, Frank Rich Jr. and Mike Hepworth are up for re-election in 2021, which run from January 20th through January 29th. 2020 is the timeline to file with the town clerk. It's an FYI. Third item is approval of minutes for the ZBA meeting minutes of November 5th, 2020. I don't know if any of or all the board members have had a chance to go through the minutes.
By
I
the way,
see one.
Mike has to run for election to be an alternate? Is that true?
No,
John,
he,
is that true?
he's filling in for somebody else, which is expiring, so therefore, he will be running as a, wait a minute.
Just
How
gets
could he
sworn
be
in.
running as a member?
Well, no, you're right, he continues, yeah, he'll continue as an alternate, he doesn't need to run as an alternate, you're right.
Right, he just needs to re-swear in.
He'll have to be reappointed. Right. At that point, I believe.
Okay,
I will confirm.
yeah. Because Mike, you don't want to have to run, last election, it cost me about $70 million, just.
I didn't want to make up campaign buttons or anything like that, so.
That's what I mean. I spent like 70 million on this foolish thing to get elected. It was horrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to go through that.
A lot of TV spots, that kind of thing.
Should have shot for a higher office like selectman, Paul.
Okay, well, that's good clarity there.
Yeah, thank you.
We could have much bigger issues with Frank not being reelected, but we'll discuss that later. I did note on the minutes, just page 1, it was people present. They had Allen, and then those question marks, and the gentleman's last name was Funk, F-U-N-K, for Blue Planet funding, which is detailed later in the minutes. So any other exceptions or anybody note any corrections for the minutes from November?
No. Are you okay, Tim?
I wasn't here.
That's right, okay.
So I was going to abstain from voting.
I make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Adjustment for November 2020.
I'll second
We have a
that
second.
motion.
All in favor? Tom Lee, aye.
Morgan abstain.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Montioni, aye.
Mike Hepworth, aye.
Okay.
Gets confusing which board you're on once in a while.
4 is correspondence. Is there any correspondence? Sean?
There is none.
Not a Christmas card?
I
I need a
hate
Christmas
that.
card yet.
Okay, and any discussion at this point before we go to adjournment?
Well, I have a discussion and it's a very important thing and I want to pose this question to John. When are we going to get some correspondence?
I'll send you mail.
Enough of this, no
I'll
correspondence.
bring you some of the mail I normally throw out at home and we can, have a stack.
Maybe some Christmas cards.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay. I'll then look for a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor, Tom Lee, aye.
Tim Morgan, aye.
Paul LaRochelle, aye.
Paul Montioni, aye.
Mike Hepworth, aye.
Okay, the meeting
you,
will
guys.
just be.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
You know, my
Good
wife
seeing
was
you.
stunned at third one.
Good seeing you.
How many
Later.
times did I say I
We don't
agree?
see you. Happy holiday.
Good night, gentlemen. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy holidays. I'll see you
Merry
around.
Christmas, Paul.
All right, thank you, you guys.